Ide veri veri nitai oshu. Ide veri veri nitaya. Ochakini ba nitai oshu. Cheke, cheke, cheke. Welcome to a very special moment in time. Meeting under a Leo new moon joined with Venus at the heart of the sun. August 2023. Not all moments in time are the same. We are not simply moving and growing at an even rate or pace in a one-way linear fashion. More like ripples on the surface of water. There is a dancing, a whirling, a spiraling, and a reverberation through space-time. And where we find ourselves at this very special, significant, specific moment in time, it is as if the cosmic tide is pulling back, is pulling into the depths of the heart, into the warmth, the fertility, the creative womb of the source of life itself. Similar to the Yoruba goddess Oshun, we are tuning into that most essential source of life, source of our heart, and source of all femininity. The heart is the throne of the soul. As we retreat back through this beautiful tide going in, it is like a divine heartbeat returning to source before that heartbeat extends and circulates that blood, that life force, all throughout the different parts, pieces, ligaments of our entire form, of our entire body. This moment in time, every being on the planet is turning into this significant heartbeat to return to ourself, to return to our essence, our natural, spontaneous self-expression, which just like the sun will radiate outwards, impregnating the solar system with life, impregnating the earth with all of life. Similarly, each and every human being is made in the divine fractal. We are made in the image of God, her himself. And this is a point of returning to our core, to begin a new cycle, to begin a new life that will now spiral out and reverberate through the month, the seasons, the year to come. As we know, and as I am always encouraging us to understand in these videos, the moon is so important. The feminine is so essential. Not everything is created evenly. The function of the moon and Venus, the fundamental feminine, is the essence of life. So a new moon is a heartbeat. Every single new moon begins the next month. And the very snapshot, you can actually look at the chart of the new moon. You can also look at this new moon in your own chart by sign, by house, by aspect. This moment in time of the exact new moon, like a ripple on the surface of water, extends through the forthcoming month. So this magical moment of heart, of love, of coming in. Again, this is going to actually set the pace, the tone, the magic, the creativity through the month to come, mid-August through mid-September. But not only that, this new moon being joined Venus Kazimi, which means Venus at the heart of the sun. This is the moment in time where Venus is at her closest to the earth, where she begins her new cycle halfway in between her retrograde period. This is the new Venusian year. And this new Venus cycle, joined with this new moon, will take us from mid-August 2023 into March of 2025. So as we begin to break down the significance, the energy, the meaning of this time, what we're talking about is a new chapter, is a turning of a corner that will set the pace, the tone, and the energy through the year of 2024 into 2025. Any new moon is a conjunction. A conjunction is the symbol of the beginning of a new cycle where two planets come together and archetypally merge. Similarly, the inferior conjunction of Venus and the Sun is like a new moon. Again, Venus is beginning a new cycle extending through this next year. So this specific moment in time is like a divine cosmic meltdown. There is a blurring and a melting of definition, of form, of roles, of relationships and expectations as we tune and melt into this raw, creative potential of the heart. So this does go deep. This is profound. And the best we can therefore do, just like all things true and profound, is speak poetically. Love. What is it? You. Who are you? What are you made of? What is the purpose of it all? This is what the sun represents. The sun is our divine purpose, our creative purpose. It's what greets the day, ascending over the horizon every morning. What is that purpose, meaning, will to live? Who are you? What is love? What do you love? Who do you love? And these are questions that oftentimes catalyze mental pondering or speculation or dissection, and that's not what this moment is. This is raw. This is unconscious. This is essential. This is about discovering what already is. You as a soul have been born to be who you are. That is the sun. The sun, as we may know, is different than the other planets, being at the center of it all, being the source of all life. The sun, ruling the sign of Leo, has to do with what is special, what is uniquely ours, and what is spontaneously radiated through our own self-expression in an unabashed, unwithheld, uncontemplated way. When we talk about spontaneity, we talk about authenticity simultaneously. Leo and the sun have to do with what is authentic, not what we're trying to fit, not what we're expected to fit, what we essentially are. What does love look like to us? What is our sense of taste? What does love feel like to us? What would love taste and feel and look like if there were no duties? If there were no expectations? If there were no roles? If there were no shoes to fill? Who would greet the day? Who would answer the door? The sun represents the present moment. Of all of the planets and their whirling and circumambulation of the sun going through these time waves, the sun at the center of it all radiates and broadcasts the current moment. The sun is what greets the door. Hello, how are you? This is who I am. This is what I radiate. This is what I express. Naturally, authentically, and spontaneously, without forethought. This is an aspect of the inner child, and the term inner child, it gets used for so many different functions and parts of our own consciousness. So the moon Cancer, even Sagittarius and Jupiter can all have these inner child-like components. And the sun in Leo is a very distinct aspect of this inner child. It is who we are, what we want, like the ice cream truck drives by. And what does the child do? Gets excited, wakes up, hey Mom, ice cream man's here, I want to get ice cream. I want this kind of ice cream. I want the gumballs on a Smurf, you know? And it does not matter if it's 5 minutes before dinner time. It does not matter what plans are going on in that day. The child hears the ice cream man, gets excited by the ice cream man, and is already spilling over with this excitement, this buoyancy, this will to live. That's Leo. That's the sun. Now, for those of you who have had any time with children, you may have also noticed that children tend to get very into particular things. You know, maybe Johnny's really into Batman, and little Betsy's got a thing for rolling around in the mud and roly-polies and these types of things. And when a child gets their spotlight on them, right? Like in a group of adults, the child comes in and they start to share what they love, you know, they're passionate. They may even be a little obsessed. You know, they could talk for hours about their favorite cartoon or comic book characters, etc. And what do we do when that child has that spotlight, you know? Do we feel identical as them? Are we just as passionate about the comic book or the cartoon character? Probably not. We've probably got our own tastes that may have matured or developed over a period of time. But how do we relate to that child? We reflect back their excitement, right? We say, oh, wow, that comic book character. Wow, that's cool. Tell me about that show. Oh, what did you find out there in the garden when you were just exploring? Come show me. Come tell me about your adventure, right? That's how we support this child. And that's also how we support one another in that identical way. You know, every person gets their 5 minutes of fame, right? That's the famous quote. And we all take turns with the spotlight on us. And that's what this whole period is birthing. It's a new show. It's a new play. And the characters and the roles are changing. And now the spotlight's about to shine on you. And what are you going to do? What are you going to share? What are you going to express in your 5 minutes of fame? Now, Leo also has a little bit to do with method acting, a little bit of faking it till you make it. What we all got to do to boost our confidence and to boost each other's confidence is we give each other that praise. We give each other that upliftment. We give each other those pats on the back, and we give that in heaping spoonfuls, as only Leo knows how to do, to ourselves. And is that narcissistic? Is that selfish? Absolutely not. It is at the root of our own sustenance. It is the root of our motivation. It's our will to live, our excitement to be alive. We have to be able to look in the mirror and say, damn, that's a good-looking fellow. That's a good-looking woman. Damn. Look at the energy spilling out from that being in their heart and how beautiful and inspiring and uplifting. That's what Leo does. Now, do we do it in the way that's fake and manipulative and, you know, just stroking egos to stroke egos? No, that's not what we do. That's not authentic Leo. That's not what any of this is about. To be totally honest, I am so passionate and in love with astrology, largely because of my own big cat Leo nature. And I'm a big cat under it all. That's kind of the core of who I am. And from that, I can see people in their uniqueness. That's why I love astrology. I get to validate every single soul. This is where you're different. This is what you have that nobody else has. This is what you get to share, what you get to express. These are the challenges that only you have, and they're going to initiate you into unique gifts and qualities. That is all real. None of it is sugar-coated. None of it is making things up. And what that does is it gives anybody who gets to taste that from a real astrologer in a real astrology reading is such profound validation. What we end up feeling is seen by the other, seen by a group, seen and recognized and celebrated for our truth more than we may have ever been seen before, is the gift of astrology and what real astrologers do for their clients, for one another and their loved ones. We get to all sample and taste test this at this time. We get to perfect our Leo medicine at this time. We should be creating kissing booths and compliment booths and loving mailboxes and message delivery mail systems where we're specifically honing out what is so awesome about one another, how we can support one another, validate each other, and give ourselves those solid pats on the back. And how I'm going to encourage us all to receive and to give this right now is don't be afraid to be like that parent to a child who's like, that's really amazing. Tell me about your cartoon character. Tell me about your sexual fetish. Tell me about your secret passions. And what comes from that is the cat comes out of the bag. And that cat can be released like a loaded spring that's now lifted off with charge, with energy, with momentum. Because finally there is safety. Finally there's recognition where we no longer have to fit the bill. We no longer have to fit these ridiculous cookie cutters coming from society, parents, cultural programs, relationship expectations. That shit is falling away. And as Venus is at her closest point to the earth, and we're feeling Venus, and we're feeling that love, and we're being reminded what humanity is all about, it is like the unfolding of flower petals, layer after layer after layer, shoulds, woulds, coulds falling away to return to the essential self-expression, natural way of being, tone, pace, style, flavor, and form that is uniquely ours. Venus is form, style, taste. We've been talking for months about how there's this incredible renewal of all the above for each and every one of us to honor our way and pace, to honor our style, as distinct, as different as that may be. That is what we are born to be. That's Leo. That's the sun. We are each divine children of God. We can think of humanity to be like an orchestra. And there is diversity amongst this orchestra. We're not all playing the same instrument in the same tone at the same time. And how ridiculously boring, shallow, and lacking that would be. Even amongst flute players, they have different chairs, they have different pitches, different parts. But there's certainly diversity of expression between the trumpet players, the percussionists, the violinists, etc. Each and every divine child is born with a unique instrument that we simply, like the big bad wolf, blow a huge breath of steam into. A different sound is going to come through. It may be woody, it may be brassy. It is us, it's ours. And every single person gets to let loose, let the cat out of the bag, express that radiance, and that is our contribution to the overall orchestra. The idea that Leo is selfish, is narcissistic, and should be more compassionate and just dissolving itself in everybody else and looking like everybody else, and I should be a monk and a nun because that's what ultimate love looks like, is wrong. It leads us away from love. It leads us away from warmth. It leads us away from this true capability to uplift one another authentically. Now, Venus is really at the root of all occult traditions, special, hidden, the secret blessing of all humanity. Venus is reflected in the human being, reflected in life on Earth, has a special relationship with Earth. This Earth is meant to be paradise. It's meant to be a Garden of Eden, and Venus represents that pleasure, that sensuality, that joy, that enjoyment, as well as the totality of paradox. For how can we experience love without hate, pleasure without pain, Venus is the totality of death and resurrection, movement from heaven to hell and back and forth, so to anchor that love on earth. It is the full spectrum of heaven and hell, witnessing the pleasure and pain on this planet that rips our heart open to compassion. None of it is accidental. None of it is a problem. If we were all perfect and enlightened, it would not stop the suffering on this planet. I'm sorry. That's a little bit airy-fairy fantasy. And when we step into the occult, we actually embrace what is. We embrace the entirety of the creation, and we understand how it is all meant to be as it is, despite how phenomenal, mind-blowing of a truth that is. Venus also holds all of this essential femininity that has long been blasphemed and lost throughout human tradition. The last high point of humanity was the end of Age of Taurus, the last time Venus was honored by culture and by religion. And these time periods reflected in Babylon and ancient Egypt, very different than our given culture, but Venus, pleasure and sensuality was at the forefront. See, the symbol of Venus is the circle of spirit atop the cross of matter. And what Venus represents is the unification of all the above. Is the body anti-spiritual? No. Is pleasure and enjoyment anti-spiritual? No. Have we seen many patriarchal religions beginning at the age of Aries and spiraling throughout the age of Pisces that blasphemed Venus? Yes. In fact, Venus being at the heart of the sun right now, where she's beginning her new cycle, she simultaneously moves from being evening star into the morning star, who is known by the name of Lucifer. Now, my guess is you were probably introduced to the name Lucifer in a way that was different than love, the planet of sensuality, the planet of paradise and heaven here on earth. And that's interesting because in the total damnation and blaspheming of the feminine, Lucifer, who really is Venus, the queen of heaven, became the devil. And this is not wrong. This is, again, all a part of divine plan, for Venus being the occult planet of paradox could only be both. And the human heart happens to be the source of all good and evil. Love and hate comes from Venus. This is a very occult planet. In fact, Jesus himself referred to himself as the morning star in the Bible. When Venus is the morning star, she is called Lucifer. She rebirths herself in a Promethean, powerful, initiatory way. At her closest point to the earth, she is also at her most romantic. So there's actually all these stigmas and stereotypes about retrogrades. It drives me nuts how many people get all upset and superstitious about retrogrades, as if it makes things fall apart, as if it were a negative thing. Everything happens for good reason. Things don't fall apart to fall apart. Things fall apart so they can be pieced back together in improved ways. So at the halfway point in her retrograde, when Venus is right in between the sun and the earth, she's at this high point, again, of meltiness. It's raw creative potential. Who are we? Who are they? What is our relationship? What are we doing right now? Probably is at its least defined. And it's messy and it's warm and it's just pure creative fertility. And this messiness and raw creative potential is also Venus at her most romantic, simultaneously most sensual. She's pulling out of her phase of being evening star, where she's most sensual, most calm, most Taurian and chill, where she's been the last half year roughly. And now through September of this next year of 2024, Venus is Lucifer, rising ahead of the sun in the morning, where she is initiatory. She is Promethean, inventive, challenging the norm, creating her Venusian paradise on this planet by breaking the rules of tradition, of patriarchy, of all of these generations of damning this earthly love. Now we're pulling out of Pisces age, not quite into the age of Aquarius. Age shifts affect our collective belief system. Most of this video and work is actually oriented towards this shifting of belief system, because the new age is actually not a new belief system. It's mostly recycled Pisces age, and the Aquarian age, in which Lucifer is very relevant, being a Promethean inventive god, is still quite new and even frightening to so many of us. It's so different from what we've known and experienced before. For example, this earthly type of love that was very highlighted in Taurus age, Egypt, Babylon, well, we know that that time period was really scathed during the Aries age, during the Christian Judeo period. And suddenly all of the body and sensuality became damned, and all of that sexuality is perverted, and we should be chaste, and we should focus only on the one God who exists in a world that's different than this world. This world's an illusion. This world's a trap. All of these Pisces age delusions that took Venus and cast her into hell. How art thou fallen, O Lucifer? Deeply symbolic. Who are we going to cast shade upon? These devils and these beings outside of ourselves. There is nothing more untasteful to me than one human pointing a finger at another human and saying they're bad, they're fallen, they've been possessed by evil. Nonsense. The only people who point that finger have not looked into themselves. They have not discovered the potential, the propensity for darkness or evil in themselves. And once you do see that, you realize that's not a bad person. That is a struggling person. That is a person who does not have their needs met. Maybe it's not that they're not praying to the right God, or they haven't remained chaste, or they're being punished for their sins. Maybe they're missing food, sustenance, clothing, love, care. Now, these Venusian elements are quite basic, quite earthly, and earthly love was demonized. When we think of Egypt, Babylon, even into Roman time, it's very sexual. There's orgies. It's what can I do for you to make you feel good? What can you do for me to make me feel good? That's not exactly romantic love. That's not exactly this Piscean dream come true, prince and princess live in the castle forever after. That's not really what this whole new cycle is birthing. First and foremost, this is about forming a loving relationship to ourself, and again, accepting what we were born to be, despite how it fits the cookie cutters of society, family, childhood, etc. This is about self-love. And the more that we love ourselves, the more we are capable and qualified of overspilling that onto others. Increasingly easy and effortless. So this Pisces age, sacrifice yourself, put yourself last. That person's starving over there, so you have to feed them before you feed yourself. That really has been the monastic tradition. And there's beautiful elements in that, but it goes too far. And then it becomes spiritual sadomasochism. And we start patting ourselves on the back for the pain we're causing ourselves, as if that were spiritual, and it's very twisted. This is about self-love to be more loving. This is about giving to ourselves like the parent to that child who just wants to talk about that cartoon. What happens when we give that space, time, attention, things, ways of relating or self-expression to ourselves? Well, what happens is we relax. We remember who we are. The stress and anxiety goes down. The point is, every single human actually takes care of others, is compassionate, listening, considerate, when we have our needs met. When we are respected, respectful to ourselves, self-respect, and respectful to others, respecting every human being, going to the beat of their own unique drum. We celebrate that under Leo. We celebrate our divine weirdness. What I want to do is frickin' weird. The stuff that excites my inner child, very alien to the things that other people can even comprehend. Is it therefore going to take some time, some effort to land what is uniquely mine in a world where my self-expression is alien? Absolutely. And this is where Einstein said, it takes courage to be a genius. It takes confidence to go against the grain. That is the hero's journey of the sun. Every human being has a unique trials, tribulations. Think of Hercules and Hercules' trials. That's the initiation into the sun. into the hero's journey. And with this specific Venus signature, there also is the treasure chest. If we were to visualize the goddess Oshun being like a golden river, a golden ocean, and this stream, this liquid golden stream of divine light, and it's yummy, and it's tasty, and it's orgasmic, and it's sensual, that is truth, spirituality, life, God, and the golden rays of the sun simultaneously. This is not merely poetic. What is poetry is closer to reality than anything else. It is God's expression. All is this orchestral, divine symphony. What a beautiful celebration. Some few more archetypes. I'll mention some technical things and then we'll wrap up. This new moon joins Black Moon Lilith, as well as the asteroids Urania, Sophia, and Kali. And I've spoke to Lucifer, who's reflected in the Sophia mythos. The divine feminine gets demonized, thrown under the bus. The actual significance of Lucifer is that Lucifer liberates Adam and Eve from the deception of the Garden of Eden, that Pisces age deception that, oh, you go into this imaginary world and everything is good and okay, and Lucifer brings truth, wisdom, knowledge of good and evil. And that liberates Adam and Eve from the deception of the Garden of Eden. That is the Gnostic mythos reflected in the asteroid Sophia, joining freshly born Lucifer and this new moon in Leo. Goddess Urania is the orchestral conductor of the sound of the spheres. I connect with Urania before every one of these broadcasts. May this express that divine symphony, which is within and in between all things, that we may honor and understand our essential nature. Urania is one of the asteroids that marks astrologers. We can tune into that most divine, sacred symphony, the sound of the spheres, understanding the symbolic resonance that drives everything in life. Everything in life is driven by symbolic resonance, by archetypal resonance. Of course, we can go crazy with it, and every single little thing that happens is symbolic and we're reading it, okay, but everything that happens is symbolic when we tune into that deeper reality. And how beautiful is it that Kali and Black Moon Lilith are also joined with this new moon. This so much says that this self-expression was suppressed by tradition, by patriarchy, by the expectations, obligations of our family. You know, in a Leo way, like as a child, maybe we radiated something that was authentic to us. I love to play with paint. I love to play, I'll speak for myself. I love to play dress up. I love really shiny, sparkly things in a highly Leonian way. And maybe as a child, I got really shut down. You girl, that's not how men behave. Oh, how embarrassing. You're acting like a little baby right now. That's exactly what we want to steer away from right now. That's what we're healing right now. That's what's falling away, is those projections, those biases. And what we're doing is we're returning to that, yes, this is what I love. I love to play. I love to express myself through clothing. And we're giving that to one another. Again, like a parent listening to an obsessed child. Yes, you can have that. You can enjoy that. You can talk your ear off about it. We're going to give you this defined amount of time. Because, of course, we all have limits and we don't want to be absorbed into one another as well. That's Shadow Leo. When that radiance becomes too much, right? And if you get a little too close to the sun, you could get scorched. So we do have to have that balance in mind, as much as we are also giving one another that most appropriate, life-saving, soul-resurrecting spotlight, 5 minutes of fame. Okay. Juno is very highlighted. So Juno is the most Venusian asteroid, to do with partnership and love and how we're exchanging what we love with others. And Juno's very tied into the energies of this time as well. Went opposite to Pluto on the 13th before entering Leo on the 15th. So there's this last weekend this shift in relationships. Again, total uncertainty in relationships. It's not about knowing solidly exactly what we are and what we're doing right now, whether that be romantic relationships, collaborations, money exchanges, new creative ventures. All of these things are just birthing right now. But when things are just birthing, they're in an infantile state. We don't hit the ground running. We have to break these new pair of shoes in, feel it out, understand what it is that's birthing. That's going to continue through this next month as Venus stations direct September 4th. That's where we get this clarity. That's when we're like this raw creative incubation that's swirling and amazing and tasty. It becomes anchored like into the heart. This is who I am. Time to deliver, time to birth, new relationships, new ways of relating, new creative ventures, new ways of exchanging money and resources, etc. Then Juno joins Venus. Because Venus is just starting to move forward and asteroid Juno is behind her and further from the sun, they're moving together through Leo from August through September. And that's really amazing symbology. Again, there's this renewal of the heart and love that is unavoidable. And it's going to change our relationship. It's going to change how we're relating, and it's certainly changing how we're relating to ourself, our core identity, and our inner child's most treasured heart. Those jewels, those cherished gems. How do we want to bring that into show and tell? How can we anchor that into our life? Venus is our environment. It's the things we use to decorate. It's the clothing we use to adorn ourselves. What honors our unique self-expression? How can we decorate our inner temple? What does the altar of our heart look like? What are the symbols, the pictures, the photographs, the artworks decorating our innermost heart? This is pure alchemy. This is pure magic. I hope that we are all taking the most advantage of this time. My dear witches, do your rituals under this new moon. This is a witch's new moon if there ever was one. I'll also quickly mention Mercury is slowing down. We will have a Mercury retrograde beginning at the end of this month in Virgo. The whole retrograde takes place in the sign of Virgo. Mercury stations direct September 15th, around the time of our new moon. Again, so much superstition around retrograde. I almost don't even want to mention retrograde because of the amount of bullshit and superstition stirred out there by fake astrologers who only ring the retrograde bell because it happens 3 times a year. So time to stir the pot, get sales, etc. This Mercury retrograde is going to bring us into an understanding of how to take this creativity and connect the dots. Mercury is the telephone operator god. Okay, so it's like, these pieces, these resources, we want to birth these things. How do we make it work in real life? Who are the people, the pieces, the process, step by step by step? Okay. We've also got Mars in Virgo through the 27th of this month, goes opposite to Neptune on the 22nd. So again, we're really getting back on schedule. Health, body, routine, getting it cleaned out, purification. Mars opposite to Neptune also brings out this, how do we make our dreams real? How are we going to act on these dreams? How do we bridge fantasy and reality? How are we going to stream this creativity into actual lived action, form, and initiation? And again, with Venus coming out of the heart of the sun as the freshly liberated Lucifer, this morning star energy is pioneering, is initiating. Moon's north node in Aries is pioneering, is initiating. This is about us rebirthing our will to live. How many of you all went through a total crisis, death and rebirth, this next 1 to 2 years? I suspect quite a lot of us. You can feel good about it. You are in tune with the divine fluctuations of life. You are tuned in with the feminine. Venus is such an important occult planet. This is Quetzalcoatl to the Mayans. This is the most important planet to witches, pagans, the planet of the earth, body, sensuality. She is the key to the occult, and she holds paradox. In India and Vedic, she has the power of necromancy, to resurrect fallen souls from the dead. That is where we find ourselves in time now. We are the magicians to our own soul resurrection. We get to revive ourself, connect the dots, and streamline back to ourself all that our soul needs to thrive. Celebrate this new moon as if it were your own birthday. Method act it if you need to, whether it be a 12-decker birthday cake, a bounce house, pin the tail on the donkey. What can you do to celebrate your inner child? And even if that inner child is saying, this is silly, I'm too old for this, and is dragging its heels, it's a method act to bring in this new freshness, to bring in this new excitement. And I can't wait to see how it's going to unfold for us all into new creative expressions, relationships, love, birthing itself through the months to come. And as we're going to talk about going through this next year, many of us are going to be called to stand on our soapbox, to lead, initiate, trailblaze, defend, and protect out of an honoring of each human being deserves to thrive in their own unique individual expression. This is what astrology is for. This is what I do. You are welcome to tap into the resources at my community. We'll have a forthcoming Q&A coming up before the end of this next month. There you can bring in your chart, ask any question about what's going on, your life, your struggles. I will give you a 5 to 10 minute mini reading, turn by turn as a group. It's a wonderful educational opportunity to learn astrology and then gain the power to validate yourself, any other soul, at any step or phase in their life, understanding not only what, but why everything happens for our own soul's evolution, so that way we can tune into this most treasured gem that, just like the continued flower petals unfolding, we are stepping deeper and deeper into. So in my community, we celebrate that, we honor our uniqueness, our weirdness, and we come together to see how we can support one another in each our own healing journey as well. I look forward to continuing to connect with so many of you brilliant souls there. And until next time, I will meet with you to discuss the forthcoming Pisces full moon in just a couple weeks. And as always, take care.